My name is Wendy Collins. I've been married for a year when I got the call that my mother-in-law had an accident. She survived but was left wheelchair-bound, and it was my kind father-in-law who supported her. I did visit the in-laws' house occasionally, but my father-in-law, worn out from work and caregiving, fell ill and passed away suddenly. Unable to leave my mother-in-law alone, I offered to move in with her. "Hey, we can't just leave Mom alone at the house," I said. "Then what do you expect us to do?" "Why don't we live there with her?" But I absolutely refused to live in that old dark house. George liked new things and preferred living in an apartment. Thus, despite being the one who should care for his parents, he didn't want to return to his parental home after marrying. I considered inviting my mother-in-law to live with us in the apartment, but it seemed impossible due to the cramped space. Eventually, after much persuasion, we started living in his parents' house. No matter how hard it was for me or how exhausted I became, George kept making demands. "You said you'd take care of my mom. You should do your job properly," he'd say. So when George came home from work and dinner wasn't ready, he would yell, "Why isn't there any food? It's your job." "Fine," I'd say, "I'll eat out." He would take money and go out to eat alone, despite it being clear that preparing meals on time was impossible due to caregiving. My husband was selfish. When he came back from eating out and found the room wasn't cleaned, he would get irritated and lash out again. "What have you been doing?" Don't use caregiving as an excuse for being lazy. It's normal to clean up before your husband comes home. "What kind of housewife are you if you can't even do that? You're really useless," he'd say. But arguing back would lead to a fight, which my mother-in-law, resting in the next room, would overhear. I wanted to avoid making her sad. I had no choice but to try to keep George in a good mood by cleaning up as quickly as possible. He would also get mad if the futon wasn't laid out or if the beer wasn't chilled, sending me out to buy it even in the middle of the night. I hoped he would help at least on his days off, but he would say, "Why should I do such things?" and then go out. My mother-in-law would apologize to me, feeling sorry. "It's not your fault, Mom," I'd say. "Please don't apologize." We had such conversations countless times, and my mother-in-law always felt indebted to me. Our married life was sad. Because something might happen to my mother-in-law at night, I slept in her room, which meant my husband and I had no intimate moments in our first year of marriage. Although we wanted children, I had no confidence in raising them with no one to help. Meanwhile, my husband started coming home later and later. Eventually, he didn't come home at all. Some days I thought, is he cheating on me? But in the current situation, I had no time to blame him. It was better to focus on getting through each day than to worry about unnecessary things. Then one day my husband came back with a woman. He was 30 and she seemed to be in her mid-20s. I was shocked when he said he wanted a divorce. With a mother-in-law who needed care, what was he planning to do by getting a divorce? I wondered. "I don't want to be tied down to this old-fashioned house, so I'll give it to you," he said, handing me the divorce papers. "But what about your mom? You can take care of her," I said. "You said you wanted to take care of the old lady." "So we moved here," he replied. "I was against it from the start, but she's your mom," he continued. "Even if she is my mom, I hate old things. I'm giving it to you, so be grateful." I felt only sadness at my husband's words, treating his mother like an object. "I'm going to start a new life with her. You do whatever you want," he said. "So hurry up and sign." "But I don't have an income. How am I supposed to live?" I asked. "That's your problem. It's your fault for not working," he replied. "I can't work because I'm caregiving," I protested. My dad worked while caregiving, despite that leading to his father's collapse. My husband thought of nothing. "Okay, I'll sign the divorce papers," I said. "Good. Now we can get married any time," he said to the woman beside him, who looked happy snuggling up to my husband. I felt a terrifying emptiness at the thought of him. seriously abandoning his family. I didn't want to cling to such a man. Take care of the old lady, will you? With that, my husband left the house. It felt as if a hole had opened up in my heart. What was the point of everything I had done until now? It wasn't the sadness of being left by my husband that overwhelmed me, but a sense of emptiness. Then I heard the sound of a bell ringing from the back room. It was the bell I had placed by my mother-in-law's pillow for her to ring if she needed anything. I gathered my spirits and, pausing to smile before entering, rushed to my mother-in-law's side. Wendy Collins kept telling herself that she couldn't show her mother-in-law a sad face. I thought, but how do I explain being abandoned by her own son? Must be too shocking. Mom, what's wrong? I asked. He left, didn't he? My mother-in-law seemed to understand what had happened, feeling sorry yet frustrated at being unable to do anything. Wendy approached the bed, wondering what to say. However, her mother-in-law said, "Maybe we should sell this house first," and laughed. Huh? I was so taken aback that I could hardly find the words to reply. Don't be so surprised. I always thought he would leave this house eventually and that you would stay. But it's hard to care for me in this house, isn't it? So let's sell this house and move somewhere more comfortable. But Mom, even though we have this land, I think it will fetch very little. It's an old house after all. I know, and if we sell the house, we'll have nowhere to live. Don't worry, leave it to me. Brightly saying so, her mother-in-law began making calls immediately, actually starting the process of selling. At the same time, she decided to move into a luxury senior apartment. Don't you think it's a nice place? The rooms are spacious, and it's all barrier-free. Getting out was difficult with the steps at the entrance, but here, there are no steps at the entrance, so it's easier for you, right? Plus, there's an open-air bath. I can't use it, but you can enjoy it. And there's a theater room, a fancy cafe too. I'm looking forward to having coffee together. Mom, this place. Look, the security is perfect. 2 women can live here worry-free. But it's incredibly expensive. How can we afford this? Don't worry. I was holding back until he was gone. If we moved here, he would be pleased and surely bring another woman. I wanted to make things easier for you, who are going through a lot with the caregiving. So I looked around and found this place. Indeed, bathing her was hard labor. Taking her out was difficult because of the wheelchair. I knew I was young now, but I would age too. I had considered what to do when that time came. It would be nice if he helped, but he doesn't help at all. So I wanted to gift you something for all your hard work for me. Moved by my mother-in-law's kindness, my tears flowed. Despite the hardships, I was grateful for my mother-in-law's warmth. With the move decided, our new life began more comfortably than imagined. The lack of steps made caregiving easier for both. The beds moved automatically, allowing my mother-in-law to get up on her own. She could move around the apartment in her wheelchair freely. But purchasing such a luxurious apartment was beyond surprising. I wondered what my mother-in-law was thinking. When asked how this was possible, my mother-in-law smiled and answered, "Actually, my husband left us quite a fortune. With not much life left, why not spend it lavishly?" We laughed. Half a year later, enjoying cafes and theaters, George contacted me. "Hey, how's Mom?" "Who is this?" "It's me, your husband." "Ah, my ex-husband. We're living together." "But what about the family home?" "The family home? Yeah, I went there recently, and the place is just an empty lot now." "Oh, we sold it." "You sold it? What the hell are you doing?" "Can't help it. Mom decided to sell it." "Mom sold it?" "Yes, selling it means you've got nowhere to live." "Oh, you're worried, even after abandoning your family. But don't worry, we're living just fine." "So what did you do with the money from the sale?" At that moment, my mother-in-law took the phone from me. "Who may this be?" "Mom, are you okay?" "Oh, who might you be?" "Only my daughter-in-law is allowed to call me Mom." Mom, so who are you talking to? It's me, your son George. My son, huh? My son abandoned his family for some woman and ran away. Are you the George? I'm sorry, apologies now won't do us any good. Hey, Mom, you sold the house, right? What did you do with the money? Don't tell me Wendy is holding on to it. That's none of your business. Actually, I'm in a bit of a bind right now. I really need money. Oh, is that so? So, could you lend me some? Lend you? What did you do? I have debts. Debts, huh? You and that woman you ran off with should pay them back together. Well, the debt was something we decided on together. Deciding together to get into debt. Ridiculous. Wendy would never let something like that happen. I had no choice. I bought a car on installment because I didn't have the money. I thought I could manage as long as I paid a fixed amount each month. But life got tough when we ran out of money for living expenses. I ended up borrowing more. It felt like it was okay to borrow as long as the payments were fixed. I kept buying things I wanted on installment. But then I realized, no matter how much I paid, the debt only grew. When I called to ask why my debt wasn't decreasing, they told me the high interest rates meant that if I only paid $20,000 a month, the interest would accumulate, and the next month I'd owe the principal plus more interest, creating a snowball effect. What a snowball. You're foolish. I didn't expect things to get this bad. I tried to make a lump sum payment, but the interest just kept growing. It's really tough. Tough, you say? We're family, aren't we? Help me out. When it was tough for us, you did nothing. Instead, you left everything to your wife and cheated. Why should I help someone like that? I'm apologizing, aren't I? Just lend me the money you got from selling the house. No way. I've already used it for moving expenses. You're still living with Wendy, right? How are you managing? Wendy works, doesn't she? You must have some money. George was persistent, trying every trick in the book. But even though I work, it's only to take care of my mother-in-law, and I get paid as a housekeeper. Essentially, it's all expenses for my mother-in-law. That's ridiculous. How can you live like that? I don't need to tell you that. Come on, help me out. Somehow I have no intention of helping you after saying that my mother-in-law hung up the phone. Damn that old hag. After being rejected and hung up on, George was evidently furious. Hey, there must be money if she can afford to have her ex-daughter-in-law work as a housekeeper. There's definitely money. There might be, but what can we do about it? Just take it. Go there and steal the passbook or something. Ah, right. That's a son's privilege. Deciding on their plan, the two somehow found out our address and showed up at our apartment complex. What? This luxury apartment? We're struggling and they're living the high life. What a wicked woman. They tried to enter the apartment, but couldn't because of the tight security. Residents have to unlock the doors from the inside. We can't get in like this, seeing their faces on the monitor, my mother-in-law, and I didn't answer the call or unlock the door. Realizing they couldn't easily get in, they tried everything to enter, but it was no use. Eventually, giving up, they called us from outside the building. Hey, where are you now? At home, living in this luxury apartment while I'm suffering. Why you get to live in such a nice place? It's none of your business where I live. You never helped with the caregiving, did whatever you wanted, found another woman, and left. And now you're complaining because you're suffering. That's rich. Shut up. Let us live there too. No way. Told by my mother-in-law never to meet them under any circumstances, I decided to stand my ground. I'm not the same person I used to be. That house must have been bought by Mom, right? So what if it was? Then I have a right to live there too. This house was bought by my mother-in-law for me. She wanted to reward me for not complaining and working hard despite the difficulties of caregiving. You did nothing. Remember, you left because you said you hated the old house and apparently old people too. What a thing to say. I was just tired at that time. It couldn't be helped. Which mouth is saying that? Tired from what? You never did anything around the house. I don't find your joke funny at all. But I really was tired from messing around with other women. Maybe that's not what being tired means after all. You weren't the only one who was tired. Sorry, I just hated that house. If I could live in a beautiful luxury apartment like this, I'd help out this time. That's just an intention, isn't it? I am her son, after all. But Mom said not to let you in, right? After being abandoned, now you want a family reunion? Do you really think after being abandoned like that, she would still consider you her child? You're being too naive. Hey, don't get so worked up. You're just stressed because you're doing everything alone, right? Taking care of someone alone is really tough. If you let me and my wife help, it would surely be easier. I'm fine on my own, thanks. There's no way you can handle everything alone. I can, thanks to this apartment. What the hell? Why are you the only one getting this sweet deal? That's just wrong. That way of thinking is wrong to begin with. Hey, it wouldn't hurt to let us in just a little. Just letting us in is enough. Or are you planning to hoard all of Mom's money for yourself? I won't let you do that. Suddenly, George's wife joined the conversation. Realizing this was going nowhere good, I decided to contact the police. I thought it would cause less trouble. The police arrived promptly after a report from the luxury apartment and warned the two to leave. A few days later, George contacted me again. Hey, about Aaron. Who's Aaron? My wife. Oh, so that was her name. Yeah, she took all the furniture while I was at work and ran away. Oh, how ambitious. All that was left in the room was a divorce paper and a note saying she couldn't deal with a poor man. Wow, impressive. She chose a poor man herself. It's all because you're hoarding Mom's money. Back to that, I'm not hoarding anything. Mom does what she wants. I'm just a housekeeper. No, if you had let me in, this wouldn't have happened. You wanted to search the house and steal Mom's bank book, right? Do you think I don't know that? I don't trust you anymore. So no matter what you say, it's impossible. It's your fault for calling the police. You were making a scene outside. It was unavoidable. You don't even reflect on your actions. Now I'm all alone, and how is that my problem? Can't we start over? You just got divorced, right? Yeah, but men can remarry immediately after divorce, unlike women who have to wait 6 months. So if I submit this divorce paper, I can remarry you right away. You're happy, right? Happy about what? Why would I want to remarry someone who just got divorced? If we remarry, I'm sure Mom will pay off my debts. Then my debts would be easily cleared. Isn't that a great idea? Why should we pay off the debt you made with that woman? How much more do you plan to make Mom suffer? No, I didn't mean to. Your idea leaves no room for any other interpretation. You just see things differently. I'm just thinking about making everyone happy. After all, I am her real son. Mom said blood relations aren't worth anything. What nonsense. Blood relations are the most important. If blood relations are so important, why did you abandon Mom so easily back then? Impossible. That's why your wife left you, right? No, that's not it. She said if things continued this way, we'd end up in trouble with the police or chased by debt collectors. So she left. So she dumped you and left everything to you. Perfect. I never thought she'd divorce me and leave me with everything. Well, she was your wife, so it makes sense. A well-matched couple trying to be happy by herself. What a terrible woman. That's a boomerang. You were just like that, too. Selfish, don't you think? I thought so. Selfish, self-centered, hopeless. That's why I hoped you'd go to hell. Yeah, I think so, too. A woman like that should go to hell. We really get each other. We should remarry. Carefree or utterly selfish. That seems to be my ex-husband George's way. After being dumped by his wife, he's been scheming to remarry me to get his hands on my mother-in-law's money. You know I have no intention of remarrying you." "Why not? We were so in love when we were younger." "I think that was a misunderstanding, so you can forget about it." What a heartless woman I was married to. "So I learned a thing or two." "Come on, don't say that. Help me out, please." "Sorry, but I'm off to the theater room to watch a movie with Mom." "What? There's such a thing, too?" "Yes, besides the theater room, there's also an open-air bath and a cafe. Luxury apartments are amazing, you know." "So I'm hanging up now." "Let me in too, please. I hate living in a cramped rental apartment. I want to live in a luxury apartment too. Talk to Mom for me, please." "Okay, I'm going to block you now." "Hey, Wendy." "Dan, Wendy, you damn old hag." George was cursing until the very end, envious of the luxuries of the high-end apartment. As the call ended, I thought, serves you right. In the end, after being blocked by me, George tried contacting his mother, but she also lambasted him and blocked him. Despite being rejected by both his ex-wife and mother, George was desperate for salvation and tried to get into the apartment again. This time he came prepared, disguising himself as a delivery man or a florist. Such admirable effort, if only he had shown it during our marriage. But it was too late. No matter the disguise, he was recognized and couldn't enter the apartment. Eventually, he started yelling and screaming in front of the monitor, prompting the building manager to deem it a disturbance and call the police. Thanks to that, George was taken away by the police to cool his head in a cell. With no one to pick him up, George named me, but being divorced and now a stranger, I refused. His mother's name came up, but she firmly declined due to her wheelchair and old age. Finally, after contacting several people, his boss came to pick him up, only to fire him for causing trouble. Burdened with debt and now unemployed, George tried to make ends meet with part-time jobs, but ended up in prison for attempting to steal money from a store register. As for me, I continue to live happily in the luxury apartment with my mother-in-law. Lately, I've become good friends with other seniors living in the same building, enjoying every day. I'm very happy now.